everyone, DaniB here. I'm in the Blademaster assembly area, and today I'm going to walk you through general maintenance on your SH series precision holders. So that includes your SH6000 with the tri-knobs, your 7000 Goalie Holder, your 7700, and your 6500 figure skate holder. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to remove your clamp, back out the set screw at the top, remove the clamp, set it aside, okay? We don't want that underfoot. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and flip the holder. Now, I've pre-cut the skate pad, but what you would do is you would take an X-Acto knife and lightly cut around the edges just to get that skate pad to lift, okay? Once it's all lifted and you're comfortable with that, you're going to go ahead and pull it back, exposing the knobs set screw underneath the pad. Now, you see this layer of glue that's left behind? Okay, the first thing you're gonna do once this has been revealed is you're gonna go ahead and take an X-Acto knife and you're gonna peel back the glue from around the set screws to expose it so that you're able to get an Allen key in there. Okay, so once you've exposed the set screws, you're gonna use a 7/32 Allen key to back out the 3 set screws that hold the top knobs of your skate holder, okay? The phenolic knobs, where you would place your hands to control the motion of the holder, that actually is a 3/16 Allen key, so make sure that you have both on hand to be able to back out these set screws. So once you've gone and backed out all of the set screw underneath the base, you're gonna go ahead and lift the hardware, okay, set it aside, and you're gonna lift that secondary base up and just set it aside, okay? So we'll move it over here for now. Make sure that you remove your springs, okay, and remove the phenolic knobs as well. Once you've removed all the hardware and you've set it aside, you're gonna flip over that glide base, looking at the remnants of the skate pad. You're gonna C-clamp it down to a solid surface, and then using a heat gun, we highly recommend the use of a heat gun. Ensure that you're wearing the proper PPE, so heat gloves, okay? You plug in, and then what you'll do is you'll slowly heat the base, and with an X-Acto knife, preferably a paint knife, a metal paint knife, you're going to heat this base up and then scrape off that glue, okay? It shouldn't take very long. If it's an older style holder and you get stuck and you've heated it up and it's not coming off, lightly spray it with WD-40, let it soak 20-30 minutes, come back to it, wipe it down, and try again. Next thing we're gonna look at is the overall health of your secondary base, okay? We start with the clamp. So you wanna make sure that there's good movement in the set screw, in the center, right in here. You're gonna make sure that it's not missing its spring in the top set screw, okay? That there's good movement in the set screw, that the spring is still got a lot of oomph, if you will, to it, and that the clamp moves freely along the edges of the anvil, okay? Ensure that the clamp mouth isn't overworn or has either opened or tightened. If it has fallen or you're over aggressive in your clamping, it will actually deform. So please be mindful of your clamp health, okay? Because that will in fact impede on your sharpening. You want to ensure that there are no burrs along the edges of the base of the clamp and that there's free movement in the clamp handle and that the pin isn't missing. Lastly, there is a bronze bushing right in here. It should not have any wear spots on it. It should be round. There should be no flat spots in this bronze bushing. Again, this will impede on how you clamp down your steel. Okay, so it really important that it is circular and not circular with all of a sudden a flat spot in it. And then we're gonna take a look at the anvil. This is the anvil, okay? We're going to ensure that it is squared off to the back of the secondary base. So if you close one eye and you have a look, it should be relatively aligned with the back length of your secondary base, okay? The anvil itself should not have any burrs, so you should not feel anything under your finger when you run your finger along it. And then the next thing we're gonna look at are the spring plungers beneath the detent knobs. And a detent knob is the knob that actually modifies the height and pitch of your holder. There is a button cap spring plunger beneath each of those detent knobs. You see that little metal nub, if you will, on the top part of that spring? That is actually the contact point, if we flip this holder around, right under the knob. If the detents have loosened, there means there's either a flat spot in this little spring, in this little guy, or they've come loose entirely because we Loctite them in. So when you buy these individually and you're going to repair your holder, you'll notice that there's like remnants of something on these springs. That's actually Loctite, so that by the time you go ahead and screw that into the hole, it sets itself for you. They should protrude just a tad on the underside of the knob, and that's the sound you hear. That's what makes the knobs click, okay? And that gives you that feeling of motion in the knobs. So from here, we're gonna set the secondary base aside, and then we're gonna go back to the primary base, okay? Loosen up the C-clamp, and we're gonna set it aside, and then we're gonna go ahead and take our base and reinstall the hardware underneath, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, you're gonna have 3 screws that are 7/32 in size and 2 screws that are 3/16 in size. So once you've reinstalled your set screw, okay, you're gonna flip that around. Please be mindful that your set screw are not protruding on the base, okay? You want to get those set screws in deep enough that they're flush and that they don't stick out, okay? And then from here, we're gonna reinstall the glide pad. You're gonna peel back the sticky, and then you're gonna try and align it to the best of your ability as square as possible. Now I usually flip the base over, okay, and with the 3 set screws facing myself, I line it up as best as possible to the top lip of the skate holder. Okay, flatten it down. All right, and then you can go ahead and flip it. So from here, we're ready to reinstall the secondary base. You're going to take your spring, both your plastic and your metal springs, okay, and you're gonna set them where necessary on the base, okay? And then with the anvil facing you, you're gonna set it back down on the springs. Once that's aligned, you're gonna take the back detent knob, the one that controls your pitch, your 1-for-1 turning, and this is where you're gonna start. And I say this because it has the most tension out of all 3. You wanna anchor through this knob. So pushing down on the secondary base, sorry, I'm short. Push down and twist until you start hearing your clicking, which I hear now. Once that front detent knob is installed, you can go ahead and install the 2 back knobs, your height knobs. Again, you're gonna set them down, you're gonna push, and you're gonna screw them down clockwise until you start hearing and feeling those spring plungers underneath the knobs. Then you're gonna take the 2 handle phenolic knobs and you're gonna reinstall them as well. Once you've gone and reinstalled all of the hardware on the top part of your secondary base, as well as your phenolic knobs, your holder is now ready for recalibration. Now that we've rebuilt our holder, we're gonna go ahead and do what we call a course adjustment to it, okay? Now, if this was done in the factory, there's a different process on how to recalibrate a holder. But what I'm gonna show you today is how to recalibrate it if you're in front of your machine, whether that's a standalone, triple station, double station, whatever it is, a portable. This is the method you would use if you were to do this at home on your own. Using a piece of steel, you can use single pieces of steel, or you can use an actual boot in a cowling like I am today. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna place it over that clamp post. Ensure that the skate is perpendicular to your body. Slide the clamp over the post, okay? And then using 2 fingers, lock it into place. Rotating it forward, just so you can see here, from the tabletop to the center line of your sharpening wheel, and I'm gonna flip this guard over so you can see, is always, always, always 4.5 inches, okay? So no matter what machine you use, if it's a portable, it's no different. You're going to ensure that it's 4.5 inches. So what we're trying to achieve here is to set the height. You're gonna take a ruler, okay, or a carpenter square, because you will have both measurements on a carpenter square. You're gonna place that ruler from the tabletop as flush as you can up against the heel of the toe, depending on what side you start on. See how high my ruler is? So we really want this skate to be at the 4.5 inch mark. So I really need to make a course adjustment of a few thou to bring it down. So we're gonna bring it down by turning clockwise on the holder. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've tried to get the heel and toe as close to 4.5 inches as possible. The next course adjustment we're going to do is on the pitch, which is that front knob towards your body. And you're going to remove your steel, set your clamp aside and your steel aside, rotate your holder, okay? And then using a carpenter square, you're going to put up that square up against the anvil, okay? Because then you get a nice point of contact where the anvil meets the carpenter square. Once that's done, you're going to take your handy dandy cell phone, turn on its light, and you're going to go ahead and install that behind the square, okay? Now, if you're looking at the square, if you see light coming through and it's uneven, then you know your pitch is off, okay? We don't want any light coming through that area of contact. So from here, we can now fine tune our holder, okay? This is where we're going to make little micro adjustments to really dial in the holder. Okay, so you're going to ensure, one, that the steel you're going to use is completely straight, that there's no bends in the steel. You're going to ensure that the cowling is in good health, that there's no divots in the cowling. If so, cut that out with an X-Acto knife. You don't want that. In the off chance that you end up clamping on it, it's going to completely mess up the height of that area of your steel. Install your skate or your steel, depending on what you're using. Tighten her down. So once you've installed your steel, you're going to go ahead and set it aside, and you're going to dress your wheel. So you're going to dress the wheel to whatever the hollow it is that you want to impose on your skate. Okay, 5/8, ½ inch. I'm doing that backwards. Whatever it is, 1 inch. You're going to dress your wheel with a single point diamond or our MPFD form dresser. So I highly recommend that you cross grind your skate so that you have a clean canvas to do micro adjustments on your skate without getting lost in all the old steel that you might see. So I've gone ahead and done that. You can see that I've got the nice, beautiful steel exposed for the most part. So from here, after it's cross ground, you're gonna go ahead and do a heel toe touch, ever so lightly, to see where your witness marks lie. So if you have a look here, you can see that there's a little mark here and a little mark here. Now they're reading low on the blade. If they're reading low on the blade, that means that the holder's still too high, okay, and it needs to come down. So if you think of it like a point of contact, right? If you're pushing it up against the skate and it's reading high on the steel, then that means that your holder's too high and it needs to come down. If it's reading too low, then it needs to come up. So I've turned my dials in the down direction, 4 clicks on each side, okay? And then I did another 2 heel toe touches. You can see now that I'm in a much better place than I was earlier. From here, I would recommend that you go ahead and sharpen your steel in full and then gauge it. Remember that if you're using the Blademaster gauging system, so whether that's the BR1000, the magnetic in-process skate gauge, or the BR100, which is the standalone gauge with the gradient lines, if you're using any of our gauging systems, please be mindful of the amount of clicks that you are turning, because every gradient line on those gauges represents 2 clicks of the dial for the height. So in the event that you process your steel and your gauge is reading the same on each side, but it's off, that's your pitch that's off, okay? And then in order to make those course adjustments, you're gonna count 1 click per line that you see off. So if it's the right and left side are both reading 2 lines off center, then you're gonna click this dial twice and do it again. Now the thing is when you go ahead and you make those micro adjustments on the pitch, you'll probably notice that now your height on the toe and the heel are off, and you'll have to micro adjust those again, because it all comes down to the pitch. If your pitch is off, you will always chase your tail on your toe and your heel. When making these micro adjustments, you also need to take into consideration the thickness of your steel. So if you are working on a player skate versus a goalie skate or a child skate, the thickness of the steel will also affect how your gauge reads, okay? And you do need to compensate for that. So if you go from say a player steel to a goalie steel and you're using a 6000 holder and you're not necessarily using a 7000 holder for your goalies, you will more than likely have to adjust your height on both the heel and toe to compensate the depth and the thickness of the steel. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to myself or any other of the Blademaster sales team. You can also reach out to us online at blademaster.com.